Another Blessed Hope report. I'm going to read from 1 Timothy chapter 4. It says, "Now the Spirit speaketh expressly that in the latter times some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils, speaking lies in hypocrisy, having their conscience seared with a hot iron, forbidding to marry, commanding to abstain from meats which God hath created to be received with thanksgiving of them which believe and know the truth." And now I'm going to turn to 2 Timothy chapter 3. It said, "This know also that in the last days perilous times shall come. For men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce, despisers of those that are good, traitors, heady, high-minded, lovers of pleasures more than lovers of God." Now, so is that telling us that things are going to get worse before the actual tribulation period starts? I would say so, and I think it's been doing it for a while. And something to note, that I'm going to be bringing out just a few subjects, and of course I would ask you to check into this stuff and to get more information, because the information's out there. First of all is that I find it very interesting that the mainstream media, which I like to call the lamestream media, they have what they call fact checkers, which is almost an admission that they don't have their facts straight before they start reporting, which means they spin things in their own direction, wanting it to mean what they want it to mean. And I also wanted to talk about the fact that the utopian nations, or the UN, United Nations, they're out to try and destroy our sovereignty as a nation. They want us to become like any third world country. They want to keep us from using our own resources. They want to turn this into a utopia, which doesn't work, because it means subjugating a lot of people and killing a lot of their own citizens. And it seems like there's been many of those despots through the ages. Something else I wanted to bring in, I'm just going to highlight on some things. I don't know if you've heard about the Act of 1871, where it seemed like the Congress of that day had made a deal with international bankers, namely the Rothschilds, to help finance the country, to keep them afloat. They just got out of the Civil War and their monies were depleted, so they actually kind of sold their soul to the devil. And I think the House of the Rothschilds is just another extension of satanic oligarchy and stuff that goes on. They're just evil people. Well, the Act of 1871 kind of created another constitution. The one that we're living under now in our sovereign states is not the one that the folks in Washington agreed to uphold when they take their oaths of office. They're talking about something entirely different. I would encourage you to just look up and see what you can find about the Act of 1871. It should be noted, too, that in our Constitution, it basically implies that the states of America are sovereign in of themselves. That's why you have extradition orders for criminals from other states, because they just can't go in other states and take them out. They have treaties with states that allows for extradition. I would encourage you to call or write letters to get us out of the United Nations and the Federal Reserve. They basically print money on paper and it has no value. Let Congress print the currency like the Constitution says it should. I think we should be going back to a constitutional republic and stop electing people who hate our country like our president does, and like one of our candidates wants to do, or hates the country. When she was in the White House with her husband back in the 90s, they say that she was just a terror, and she was a woman of a bad temper and argued and yelled and screamed and had a lot of fits. But it's obvious that they hate this country because they want to turn it into a communist nation, because they themselves are communist at heart. And the other thing is that I guess on October 1st, so that might determine how long this video will stay up on YouTube, but don't let the UN take control of the internet. Like I said, get on the horn, call your representatives, write them letters, make them give you a verbal or a response of some kind that they know about this and they're going to do something about it. And tell them the election's just around the corner, and if they're not running at this point, they will be down the road. And the climate change, don't be fooled by that. There's no global warming because of carbon emissions. Carbon dioxide makes up for less than 0.1% of our atmosphere, and most of the CO2 comes from the oceans. The reason for this climate change thing was the United Nations was trying to create a common enemy, and they could get all the countries together to fight a common enemy, and they decided on global warming. That's a way to form unity, and the UN has no scruples whatsoever. They're just a bunch of utopians who are out to destroy sovereignty and create a world government. And I'm pretty confident in saying that every president since Ronald Reagan has been a murderer and treasonous, has sold us down the tubes. I'm really saddened to say that as a person, George Bush was a nice guy. But he did sign the Patriot Act, which started the downhill slide of our rights being taken away. If we want to keep our rights, we're going to have to do something about it. If you know the Lord and you make a habit of praying, how can you know the Lord without praying? But pray for the nation, pray for the fact that these George H.W. Bush, Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, and Barack Obama, they've got a pretty big kill list of people that they've killed, not because of trying to protect our rights overseas. We had no business going and attacking Iraq. They just didn't like Saddam Hussein, and I'm not here to defend Saddam Hussein, but it really was none of our business. And we shouldn't be going in and taking over countries because we create a vacuum and a void, and other people come in and try and take control and want to turn their society into a collectivist, progressive society, which just basically ends up in slavery and servitude and deaths of a lot of folks. Check out your history. So these last 4 presidents need to be tried for treason and murder, along with Hillary Clinton, John Kerry, and that whole group of people. Anyway, I'm going to stop here and see how this does. And I would encourage you to check on what the United Nations really stands for. They have their documentation on the internet where you can find it. Look and see what the Act of 1871 was all about. Look and see if maybe I'm right in saying the states are sovereign. Call and write your officials about stuff that's going on in the country and get a commitment out of them that they're going to do something about it. Ask that the Congress authorize the printing of money in our own mints, not let the Federal Reserve put out this cheap paper stuff that every time they print money, the value of your existing money goes down, so it's kind of a hidden tax. Call out these officials and tell them there's no such thing as fossil fuel climate change. If there's global warming, it's not because we're driving our cars and burning fossil fuels. It's because Mr. Sun cycles. And our climates have changed and cooled off in cycles, and you can check your history on that too. See if I'm right about our presidents and being treasonous and selling our rights down the tubes. Even the hero of the Depression, FDR, he was a utopian. He got angry with the Constitution because it interfered with his restoration acts that he wanted to pass, and the Supreme Court wouldn't let him because they upheld the Constitution. And so he managed to get judges in there who went along with him, and the New Deal is a bad deal. The Great Society was a bad society. The war on poverty was a war on freedom. So anyway, just check these things out and don't let them take our country away. We need to fight for it in prayer, write letters, speak out, tell others. Don't let ignorant people take away your day and, of information, and friends, don't let other friends stay ignorant. Anyway, this is signing off. Thank you.